we just got back from seeing the movie Crazy Rich Asians. Saw it a couple days ago, so we wanted to give it a moment to sink in before we could give our review.
The movie is based off of a book in a trilogy of books by the same name.
I didn't know it was a trilogy.
It's actually a trilogy, and so now when I watched this movie, I actually didn't know any of this going into it. This is all stuff I've learned since watching it, just so I could give a more educated review, really. And I like to research a movie after I've seen it. I don't know why, but it helps me appreciate it more. But anyway, so it was a screenplay based on a book. The book is written by a guy who himself is from Singapore, and he said he wanted to expose some of that culture to a North American audience. So in that regard, do you feel like it did any of that?
Well, I think, Singapore is what a great location. I think the opportunity for some really great scenery. I guess one of my biggest critiques is that I was looking for more stunning scenery. Although they did have some great scenes, some stunning scenery in the movie. I thought some of the cinematography, though, was a little bit, it didn't really do, I think, the country any justice. And I thought that it could have been done maybe a little bit better, but still, it was a really great, exciting location. I can't personally speak on, culture from Singapore. And being a non-Asian viewer of this movie, I'm sure I missed a lot of the inside jokes or cultural references. But it was still something that I could appreciate, and I did really enjoy seeing a lot of that on the screen. But I almost feel like they could have shown more.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who isn't Asian and isn't familiar with a lot of the cultures and customs and scenery of that country. It would have been nice to see maybe even a little bit more.
Well, right, and of course being that, it's one of these things where I want to talk about it in a little bit relation to the books because, and having never read the book, and I don't know if I will, having watched the movie, I can't.
Well, the truth is I did buy the book before the movie came out, thinking that I would have a chance to read it before. I didn't realize that the movie was coming out so soon, and so I only bought the book about it before we went to see the movie, and so I did not get a chance to read it. Now that I've seen the movie, will I go back and read the book? It's hard to say. Maybe I will, now that I know it's a trilogy.
Because I think, well, a lot of times, the books, they include a lot more than the movies possibly can.
Yeah, and it's hard a lot of times. Things I know get lost in translation. A lot of times, and this is a common critique, is that the book is better than the movie, and I can see that. I do feel the movie didn't maybe delve into the characters as much, but maybe that was true in the book as well. I really don't know. But as far as light, really cute romantic comedies go, I thought it was definitely worth the money. It's probably not going to be ranked long term as like the best version of that story, but still a really good, enjoyable movie with a great cast.
Right.
As far as the story goes, I know it was a book and it was translated to the film. However, I did not read the book, so I can't comment on that type of how well it translates to the film, to the screen, I should say.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a very cute, lighthearted rom-com. Not very original, but again, original in the sense that it did have an Asian flair to it and knowledge cast, and it was really good to see a lot of really good-looking people. The cast in this movie, it was good. It was definitely visually appealing and had humor, and it had, of course, the requisite problem with tears and separation and then the coming back together. That's pretty much the formula for every rom-com. But I thought it was done well.
Yeah.
So what'd you think?
Well, after having some time to think it over, so the movie is kind of an old tale, really. If at the very core, it's an old story about a boy who takes his girlfriend home to meet his family, and
Rich
right.
boy.
Well, sure. They haven't met him, and it turns out that they're not just rich, but crazy rich.
Crazy
like,
rich.
You know, he's the richest, most famous, eligible bachelor from Singapore. But it follows a lot of the old tropes, if you will, of that kind of story. It has the mother that's not quite approving of her if she has to
Try to win her over, I guess, a little bit.
You try to win her over, but this is obviously what makes this unique, and what everybody might already know is that this is historically it's a all Asian cast, and so
the story has been done before. We know that.
Mhm.
It's the classic Cinderella, Pretty Woman, even Coming to America, redone with an all Asian cast and an Asian flair, which is really, really nice. It's nice to see that. It's a great story. It's that Cinderella story, you know.
Yeah, but you don't think that might be a little tired, a little been there, done that?
No, it works every time.
Yeah. There's Look Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same sort of story done in a little bit of a different way. I could probably go on and on.
Well, we could go on and on.
There's
and that's my point.
Yeah.
It works.
Well, okay.
Every time. It's a great theme.
Mm-hmm.
And it works.
It works.
And it just shows how it can be translated across all types of cultures
Mm-hmm.
and backgrounds. And I personally, I liked it. You know, I mean, I thought it was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was lighthearted. It was fun. Gorgeous cast.
Right.
Gorgeous, you know, setting. It was great.
And
it was fun.
Sure. And then it had the historical significance of the all Asian cast. Now
I know how important that is. You know, I mean, we like to see those types of representation on films. I personally would like to see a more diverse cast in movies, and a lot of these movies, things like these standard themes go across races. It doesn't have to be the typical white cast, you know, that always has to star in these movies. Doesn't always have to be Tom Cruise or Julia Roberts. I'm sorry.
Sure. And again, I think the book really probably goes a lot further into, like, you know, Asian culture. But I did read from the director that there are a lot of little Easter eggs that maybe only, you know, people that are, you know, in the know will really understand.
Yes. So, I mean, you know, those things may have been lost in us, but as someone who is not privy to that type of information, I still thought it was an enjoyable movie. And it's definitely, I give it a thumbs up for fun.
Yeah.
And I say, see it.
Yeah. So, it was a pretty good movie. Well, anyway, so for example, that part where, what's that guy's name from The Hangover that was in the movie?
I don't know his name.
You don't know his name?
But yes, I know who you're talking about.
So for example, the father in the scene where Rachel goes to visit her friend from college.
Yeah.
The father where he comes in and he does that whole thing where he has this really strong, this bad English accent. You know?
Right.
Yeah, and he ends up going cuckoo, cuckoo, or something like that. Well, I found out that was actually meant as a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke, because, of course, for many, many years in Hollywood, Asian people were portrayed in a very negative, you know, sort of they would have the sort of slant eyes, buck teeth look, and they would talk with a very bad, heavy accent. And that's the way they
that is a common misconception. Just because someone has a thick accent doesn't mean they're stupid.
Well, right.
You know, and a lot of times people are unfairly given that, you know,
Sure, but Asians don't always sound like that. So that
Well,
was
of course, that too.
a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke at that old portrayal in Hollywood.
Well, yes.
Sure.
Well, you know, I think the fact that this movie is definitely breaking down some barriers, it's really good to see it. And I've noticed recently there is a trend toward Hollywood making movies now that tell different stories, not just the same story with the same type of cast. And I believe now we're beginning to see a little bit more of a branching out of ideas, casts, themes, everything, and it's really actually an exciting time to start watching movies, and I look forward to more coming out.
Yeah.
The movie that we saw a few weeks ago, a couple of movies that we saw a few weeks ago, Blind Spotting is another movie.
Yes, indeed.
Where, you know, it's not like your typical story, and it tells a different, but that's another video.
Yeah.
But that was a great movie too, as well. But I mean,
movie.
these are the things that we're seeing coming out more, branching out, and not seeing the same stereotypical movies, and breaking down those Hollywood stereotypes. And
well, the thing is that
breaking down walls.
And not to rain on your parade, but it's not really enough to make those type of movies. People have to actually go see those types of movies.
Support them.
Yeah, the studios don't just make those movies out of the kindness of their hearts. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So if you want to see those types of movies, you have to see them.
Which is why I strongly support seeing this movie. You don't have to be Asian to enjoy this movie. It's a classic story that you're familiar with, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And hopefully there'll be more movies made with a diverse cast.
Yeah.
And not in this stereotypical sense.
It's definitely a chick flick, though, right?
Well, romantic comedies tend to be chick flicks.
Sure, yeah.
That doesn't mean guys can't enjoy them, too.
Yeah, well, or at least pretend.
There you go. Pretend to enjoy it. If your date's happy, then you're gonna be happy. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see you at the movie.
We'll see you at the movies. Oh God. Really?